good day, everybody. Today it is May the 17th, and I'm so excited because we're in the middle of the Palladian portal, and we have this wonderful Taurian energy, Jupiter in Pisces, Pluto in retrograde. It is the absolute phenomenal time for healing. Okay, Sandra Alexa here with Game Changer. It's all about self-discovery, relationships, okay? And if you go up to the top, you can see where you can order it. It comes in hardcover, softcover, ebook. And if you go underneath in the show me, you can see my website. Today, I'm very excited. We have somebody so special. This is Nick Carbuto. I hope I'm saying it right.
That's perfect.
And the reason is because I love the romance of the Italian language. It's so beautiful. Okay. Now, I have worked with a lot of healers throughout the years and a lot of people. I've been very, very blessed. I would have to say, Nick, you are one of the most unique souls I have ever met. Okay, truly.
It works both ways.
And I'll tell you, I mean, you can see some of my testimonials. One of the fellows that did, he goes, if you don't want the truth, buyer beware is what he calls me. If you don't want the truth, okay. And so I just feel so honored and so blessed to be able to share you and your gifts. So now Nick comes from, his company is called Tranquil Heart, okay? He's going to tell us about himself and what he does. What I find really fascinating is he's the first person I've ever seen that has blended modalities. So he's doing intuitive counseling. And it's really funny because you and I worked before, and I can remember, I even think you've seen orbs. Reiki, he does sound therapy and meditation. But so now it's not about me. This is about you, Nick. I want you to share your story. I just feel so blessed and I'm so excited. Nick is from New York, but I will have some information in the hashtags where you can get a hold of him. Okay, Nick.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so honored that you believe that my message is worth something to be shared. But thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So where would you like me to start?
Well, you know what I want you to start with is I'm quite fascinated that it's like this is another part of your journey. Your journey before was you were into the music, okay, where yes. Healing, Reiki, music and that. But I think the music, because when we think about music, we think about frequency. And so I would like you to talk about your music career. I think that's really phenomenal because a lot of people, like I have a bowl and I know mine has got two of the notes, whatever, okay. But it's like, so people that get into the chakra healing and frequency healing and tuning forks and that type of thing, they have the stuff, but they don't have the actual basic understanding. For me, you resonate with the tone. Mm-hmm. It's the tone. So if you want to tell us about that and then the work and exactly.
I would say that, I am a musician by trade.
Right.
I think that's really a part of my purpose in this incarnation. And, for those of you that support the beliefs of reincarnation, my belief is that the Nick Carbuto that's speaking is an aspect of my soul, one aspect of my soul.
Yeah.
So this aspect, this lifetime is meant to be creative, being the creative healing arts. So I go back to basically when I was my 8th birthday, and my father was a jazz guitarist, a vocalist, and a composer. So there was music in the house all the time. he was always practicing, working on his craft. There was always rehearsals. There was always guys coming in, jamming with him. It was a wonderful way to grow up as a musician to have that. When I thought about going to college, I actually thought about being a physical therapist. That's what I really wanted to shop.
Really?
Sure, right, of course. But back in the 70s, you know, we didn't meet regularly with our guidance counselors at the high school. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be a physical therapist. Well, the counselor said, well, you can't be a physical therapist because you didn't take chemistry, you didn't take physics. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I'm a pretty good musician. I think I'll go into school. And it was also like natural. It was very organic how I just decided to be a musician by trade. So when I went to, I actually went in as a performance major in college, LIU Post, and my friends from Long Island, New York will know what I'm talking about. I went as a performance major, and I really wasn't as good as I thought I was. So I said, you know, I think I wouldn't mind being a teacher. So I got my degree in music education. So that's how I kind of got involved with the education part of it. I always performed. Of course, being attached to my dad, it afforded opportunities for me to gig, to start playing with people. So I did my first paid gig at like 15 years old.
Perfect.
So I was always a performance person. Musically, besides teaching music and performing music, I also taught private lessons as well, drum lessons and percussion lessons. I started to realize that as an educator, it was the effect of music on the soul. And that was an awakening for me, because I was, at first I was very much about musical perfection and getting it just right and being totally, every note's perfect, every rhythm is perfect, the balance of the band is perfect. And I started realizing that the most important thing for me was relationships. So as an educator, I always felt that to be an effective educator, it was 80% relationships and 20% content.
Right.
So for me, as a teacher, the biggest challenge is to get a student to do what he or she needs to do to be successful, even though they may not feel like doing it. So my job, if I had a relationship with you, let's say you played the flute. If I had a relationship with you where we had common ground and I knew about you, you knew about me, I was respectful of you as a human being, not a dictatorial band leader, no top down, that's my way or the highway. And we were on equal ground. So the students in my bands through the years of education, they were my equal. They were my friends.
Right.
So it made setting high expectations easier, because my students believed that it was worth it to work a little extra harder. Not just for Mr. Carbuto, but because I set the bar high, but I help you attain those goals.
The angel under the wings.
Yes. So, so as an educator, that's where my strength is, or it is and was establishing a relationship with you as my student. So, and then musically, I really didn't. It's interesting because along with my musical path, there was this parallel, or I want to say almost like unified spirituality about me. I was born into, or agreed to be born into, a Italian Roman Catholic family.
Right.
Yes. I guess at about, I want to say I was about maybe my late teens, early 20s. I started taking the martial arts, the martial artist, brown belt. And when you reach brown belt, your sensei says, look, it's time to supplement the training. We're not all about just punches, kicks, and
Right.
blocks. And so they want to supplement. So some guys became marathon runners. Some guys became weightlifters. I chose Hatha yoga. So I found this woman in my hometown. Her name was Sis Manning. Her maiden name was Sis Henderson. And again, my Glen Cove people will understand who that person is. An incredibly enlightened human being. Absolutely, this woman just, her aura was about out here, like just, I mean, she was just amazing. And so even though she taught the postures and the asanas, and that's wonderful, but she taught what's behind all of that, the body, mind, spirit connection. That was really my first delving into this world. You know, up to that point, I was, you know, strict Roman Catholic, went to mass, received communion, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And and to a degree, I'm still a practicing Catholic, and I get all the spirituality behind that. Mm-hmm. And I would never say to anyone, you know, don't be a Catholic and do something else, because it's not, you know, it's just not my main path at this point.
No.
But I get it. So that spiritually, that's what happened. Then I met my wife to be, which was magical.
Right. And that's perfect.
I mean, purely magic. And I mean that sincerely when I say I was a very shy person all through grade school, very shy, like almost like with women, I was petrified. I was petrified of rejection. I was petrified of just talking to a woman, like, oh my God. Right. So when I met Judy, it was just like instant soul recognition. It was like instantaneous.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
I mean, bells, whistles went off. I just knew this person was going to be it. So, so I together, we took this course back in the mid 70s called Basic Integration. And it was taught by a couple, very enlightened couple from New Mexico. And their course was based on the teachings of Seth. Are you familiar with the Seth material?
A little bit, not that.
Okay, so Seth is an entity that's channeled through a poet, psychic medium, Jane Roberts, who's long passed away. And the Seth material is based on the belief that your beliefs, your intentions manifest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So if you want to change your life, change your beliefs about your life, change your intention. You call it what you want. Call it prayer, call it meditation, call it whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You create your life through your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about life, your beliefs about everything, your beliefs about your body, your beliefs about who your mate is,
right.
Your relationships. I mean, So we took that together. Probably after a number of years, we met up with a psychic medium by the name of Tom, who was in Glen Cove.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. He was very powerful.
Oh
my God.
Yes. Yes. Tom Trotta, his name is. And along with another couple, Pat and Marco and Judy and I and this Tom, we met every Friday night and we channeled, we prayed together, we broke bread together, and we worked spiritually in that realm. It was unbelievable. It got to a point where we actually brought people in to work, heal, to lay hands. I was doing Reiki before I even knew what Reiki was.
Right. Yeah. It's natural. It was natural for you.
Yes. It was, absolutely organic. Yes.
Yeah.
So that group, for a number of reasons, just kind of broke up, and we did that for a couple of years. But all along, I knew there's something more that I needed to do.
Right.
I just didn't know what form it was going to take. So I went through my teaching career. I retired 6 years ago. Wonderful career. Most of my friends on Facebook are former students who I still have a relationship with. It's just wonderful. It's just the beauty of social media is that is that connection. It's just absolutely wonderful. Just
Right.
to see how they've grown. And yeah. So when we retired 6 years ago, we moved off of Long Island for a number of reasons. One of them was to get away from the rat race of that area, because very, very high density traffic, people, just, we were just so
Right.
ready to be gone. I love going back and visiting. We love our friends and our family there, but so we moved here, and it was kind of like I got here, and we were like, what do I do now? Like,
So where is here? Where are you living now?
I'm sorry, in Clifton Park, just north of Albany, upstate New York.
Oh, Clifton Park. That's where my publisher for my first book was.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Clifton Park. Okay. Okay, so that's where you're living now. So then all of a sudden you retired, you moved there, and it was like,
What do I do now? Like, how do I affect people? I spent 36 years as a teacher working on affecting people's lives.
right.
And all of a sudden I'm here, Judy and I are here, and we're like, what do I do now? Am I just going to play golf every day? I mean, it's wonderful, but I mean, I felt like I had work to do.
Right. You had purpose.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we had seen a psychic medium just because we were attracted to them,
Right.
to those kind of people. We both, Judy and I each had a reading, and then we had a reading as a couple, and it was wonderful. She was spot on, very good. And we had heard about Brandon Russ through, and then we we each had a reading with him, and he said, look, I've manifested you for a long time. Welcome to Spirit Tree. And I was like, okay.
Ooh.
I wasn't sure what that meant
No,
at the time, but
Yeah.
he encouraged me to sign up for his intuitive development class, which is basically like at the time, it was a 20-week survey course of like meditations and crystals and, all modalities. And
Right.
and things just start to click. It literally happened so fast for me. This is 2020. This is March. This is end of January 2020. The pandemic was an absolute blessing for me.
Yeah.
Because I literally got my spiritual house in order.
Right.
I was prepping for what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing now, I'm going to be doing, because there's more to it than just the blended Reiki practice.
Yeah.
There's much more to it. And I know we've shared, where Judy and I are heading, what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. There's so many things that are opening up for you guys. It's unreal. And this to me is just the start.
Yes.
A lot of people, the pandemic it had its reasons. That's all I can say.
Of course.
Was so that we would go within and find out who we are and connect with the divine.
Absolutely.
And become a sovereign being.
That's what it did for me, for sure. So we took his ID class. We took a wonderful class called Conscious Living with him and Beth Sagnelli.
Yeah.
And then took his mediumship class. And there it was. It was all there. And of course got Reiki certified in the past year as well. So it all happened like boom.
Yeah, I have a term for that. It's like you fast track it.
Oh.
Like fast tracking mastery. So because I was a teacher, okay, and
Yes.
in the trades, okay, and so but in a high school we had to have a degree, and you can see some kids, and if you work with them, I worked with similar. They're still my friends. I trained competition, and they won it, and it's just like they would just go so fast, like they could be starting with me and I would take them to a competition and they'd win a gold medal. It was like it was meant to be.
Yes.
Or meant to be brought in, and it wasn't that you were going to take 5 or 6 years to do all of these different things. You took them and it was like they went to the 6th level of the brain, you synthesized them, you had it, and you had all of this from before.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is beautiful.
And of course there's just those beings who are just ready for it.
That's right. ready.
as
Well,
a
you were
teacher.
ready all your life, but you had the patience. I think that's what's so fascinating about you. There's two things I'd like to interview you on later. You and Judy as a couple, because
Uh-huh.
it's beautiful. And that's true relationship. And the next one is everybody is waiting. I can hardly wait to retire. I can hardly wait to retire. I'm just sick of my job. It's like whatever. And I go, really? Because it's never been that way for me. And one thing I did was when I went to Mexico, I went for 3 months one time and would go down to the market and I seen all the couples.
Mm,
I'm not being mean to anybody. It's just that when you have the sight that we do, we see things that others don't see. And they looked great. They had their hair done. They had nice clothes and makeup and jewelry, but I didn't see any sparkle in their eyes. It was just like they were wandering aimlessly. And for me, it's just like, oh my God, there's so much. Like once you finish one thing, then you move into the next thing. And so I think it was the guy that played some Star Trek thing. Somebody said, what are you going to do when he retires? He goes, retire from what? Life?
yeah.
Engaged in life. And I think that
Yes.
talking from a retirement aspect, you let me know when you're able to talk about that, because
Sure.
that's a huge thing that people are having a challenge with. But
Yes.
it was just a part of your life. That's what I'm saying. It was just a part of your life and you transitioned.
Yes.
Well, you've always done the healing and not even knowing, no, not even knowing it. I mean, your students and your friends don't realize that you talk about relationships. Everything in life is a relationship and you automatically healed in relationship.
Absolutely. It's interesting because my office at my job became, one kid said, Mr. Carbuto, can we just hang like the psychiatrist is in, like plaque on the door? Like, I mean, I literally, kids would come and just sit in my office and we talk. I'm on my free periods or their free periods. And I was already counseling. I was already healing, helping
Exactly.
people.
And it wasn't just talking. Okay. It was
Oh no.
healing. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. This is a phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so, and now the transition is where you've always done this, is just you're doing more now.
Yes. 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 I at your prompting, which I so appreciate you being the messenger. I've always been fascinated by sound healing. My son actually spent a year in California becoming a sound healer, working with the tuning forks and the bowls and
Right.
um, yeah, I
That's
know.
right.
Yes. So when you contacted me and you sent me that video and or about the tuning forks, I'm like, I so get the relationships of the frequencies to the pitch, and I'm like, I know all this already. So how do I integrate this into in my practice as a Reiki person and a intuitive counselor and whatever meditation? How do I do that?
And
So I
sound.
look, so I looked up. There's a very very well known sound healer on the East Coast who's only an hour and a half from me. So I signed up for her class, 3 weekends, utilizing tuning forks, the bowls, and frequencies. And listen, I without even knowing, now that I know because I've done some research on it, and I'm speaking to you like you don't know, but I'm just, this will be here for people who are
Oh,
listening.
this is good.
But your chakras, your energy centers operate on certain frequencies. So when I was, when you're working with like low pitches, like, well, let's say drums, for example, anything that's considered battery, something you hit, works with your bass chakra. And then your bigger instruments like your tubas and your baritones and your string basses and everything that's in the bass range works on your sacral chakra. So without even realizing, and going up, trumpets and trombones and flutes and all that, string instruments, they help align your chakra. When you think about students who become doctors, become lawyers and psychiatrists, and they all were musicians. They all got it. They all get it.
Were they?
You talk to most doctors, they either played an instrument or sang in a choir or, yeah, absolutely. Without question.
Phenomenal.
Yes. They've done studies, they've done numerous studies on those students who took band, orchestra, or choir and their test scores, SAT scores, and significant difference in their scores from kids who didn't participate in the arts.
Right.
Absolutely. So, so I was organically, without even realizing it, I was kids were being immersed in this sound
That's right.
in a band room. So let's say you're a flute player. Well, the high frequencies correlate to your top chakra. Your clarinets, your oboes, they are dealing with the third eye. Depending on where you sit in an orchestra or a band, you hear more of wherever you are sitting or wherever you're standing when you play. So my purpose as a teacher was to get those pitches just right, so they worked harmoniously, they blended perfectly. And when a band, you ever walk up to a out-of-tune piano and play it, and you go, that doesn't sound good. But
Right.
then you walk up to a piano that is tuned, it's like, okay, this is working harmoniously with each other. So that was my work as a band director, was to get kids to be so conscious of frequency, conscious of pitch, getting it just perfect, so it worked harmoniously within the band or within the orchestra. That's what I did organically without even realizing. Kids were getting such a sound bath being in the band.
Well, but that's it. They are now have sound baths.
Yes. Oh yeah.
We have forest bathing, where we can go into the forest and feel the different trees. They have different, and then we have sound baths,
Mm-hmm.
where they have those big gongs or whatever.
Yes.
And they have different things. So for you, it's all about harmony. And it's interesting because you talk about relationships. And so it's the relationship with self, it's harmonizing
Yes.
oneself.
Absolutely. It's interesting because when you contacted me about the tuning forks and sent me that information, I went to the sound healing person's website, and she posted a song that she had written, and she sang it in what's called a mode. Okay, it's not a major key, it's kind of a minor key, so to speak, and musicians will understand what I'm talking about. So she sang it in a mode, and I started singing along with it and harmonizing with the song just naturally, just to blend. But then I purposely made the relationship of the pitch dissonant. And I had an aha moment, like this is all about relationships. Relationships is a matter of expectations, I believe. If the expectations don't match, that is where you have problems in relationships.
Right. And it's the emotional honesty to
Yes.
assist in making sure what the expectation is.
Yes.
And interesting you say dissonance.
Yes.
Because my feeling right now is that there's a high percentage of people at all ages, and I really feel sorry for the younger people, that are having something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, okay, is not allowing them to have great critical thinking, okay, and they're very confused, and they're a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, okay. And so that dissonance, so for you, the dissonance you took and you figured something out with it.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely. Because, okay, so if, let's just go on a really basic level.
Yeah.
If as a spouse, if you expect me to put the garbage out, but I expect you to do it and never gets done, well, it's, wait a minute, we're not agreeing, we're not in harmony with each other.
Right.
So, I always felt that, Judy and I, we're just so blessed. I mean, we just knew again, those of you who support reincarnation as a belief, we come in together, we agree to come in together. We agree, we have a soul contract, we're going to meet here, we're going to get together, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, we're going to do all these things to reach our full potential and our purpose. So Judy and I talked about everything before we were even married.
See,
We talked about who's going to put the garbage out and whose responsibility is to do this. And so for us, in a time in the late 70s where it wasn't popular to empower, especially in Italian macho, like hierarchical, patriarchal world, it wasn't cool to like have your wife be on equal ground with you. It just wasn't. So we came in together as a couple, equal ground.
to teach, but that's something you will teach also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you will
And
teach
we always felt that we were going to do something as a couple. Like we always felt we were an example. And it wasn't contrived. It wasn't put on like, oh, well,
It was it's very authentic, as your word is very organic. It's very authentic. It's very real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we always felt that we had almost a responsibility to be an example for people of what's possible.
You know, the weirdest thing is because Game Changer is what brought Brandon, Russell, and I together.
Yes.
Because that's the spirit tree that you work with in New York, that whole group of beautiful, beautiful people. Okay.
They are.
And it was that he had me talk to everybody about, because I believe that relationship is the biggest thing, but the first relationship is with self, and that the harmony comes, and then it's with the other people. And like 9 years ago, I started writing the book because I found relationships were breaking down. And relationships it is a soul contract. You come and you guys were meant, you met. Other people, okay, are going to have to move through different ones because it's the lesson. Okay.
Yes.
Lessons that they're doing, but you actually have come to assist people in understanding what a true soul relationship, because we're moving from the physical, sexual kind of, you have to look good. I mean, you're both beautiful people, but it's such a physical, it's more of like a root and chakra, as opposed to a higher frequency. And I'm not saying one is any better, but at this particular time in our life, we're moving from third dimension to fifth and seventh. Our consciousness is raising, and we're being asked to have soul supportive relationships.
Yes.
There's no jealousy. It's I'm going to help you, you're going to help me. It's just equal.
Yes. Absolutely. In a time where we're starting to finally realize that women are on an equal level, should get paid the same money, and should be treated equally. You know, we've been doing that for 45 years. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And we look forward. I mean, you're one of 3 mediums that told us that we're going to be teaching about relationships.
Yes, you will. It's an
absolutely. And we are so in on that. And we did your first chapter in the Game Changer.
Oh, right.
Not for the faint of heart. It's a great book. Don't get me wrong. But the first chapter, you better get in front of that mirror and face yourself, because that's where it all starts.
It does. It starts. Yeah.
It absolutely is where it all starts for us as a couple.
And I said, if you were to do the exercises now, as opposed to a year ago, what happened collectively, it would be totally, totally different. And I really like it because I look at both sides. Okay. So people are, the grass is greener, there's male, there's female. Okay. And there's a woman that wrote a book years ago, and the fellow that told me about it has passed over, and it keeps coming back to me. And it was that women have been used to having a slave man. And I had never, because I'm a farm girl. So you think I'm going to university and I'm with these people, and they go, Yeah, my daughter's going to university. Oh, that's wonderful. What's she going to take? What difference does it make? She's going to find a husband that's going to take care of her. Well, I couldn't conceive of that. I couldn't conceive of that. Okay. And then I'm hairstyling in between teaching, and I moved to Hawaii, and I'm back, and I'm working in a very high-end male salon. One of the Rogers passed on now. And so many of the men came in, and this is the state of relationships. And I want everybody that's in relationships and having similar challenges either way, they can contact you guys, is that I'd say to the men, they were all businessmen. Yeah, we're going to be retiring. That was a big thing. We're either retiring or they were businessmen, but selling like a profit sharing or something very high. And they go, I went, that's wonderful. And they go, no, it's sad. And I go, why? And they said, well, we have our home here in Canada, and we were going to spend 6 months in the States. And you know what the wife said? Do you think I'm going to spend 6 months with you?
No.
Not leaving my children or grandchildren.
Oh.
Wow. So those two things. And basically on the other side, there's going to be the same thing. We do have deadbeat dads and that type of thing. But I think there's so much right now healing. But even before, like you said, you and Judy had separate, it's like everybody needs to have their own personal healing right now. If you expect
Yes.
get into a supportive soul relationship,
Yes.
it's such a different shift from what we've been through. It's natural for you guys.
Yes.
That's what you came in here knowing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were just blessed to have these situations occur that made it happen. I mean, it just made it happen. It was so
Right.
organic. It was so natural. It wasn't forced. You know, I mean, when I first met Judy, I mean, she was the only woman ever that made me feel like I'm okay the way I am. And I knew that instantly. It was instantaneous. Sandra, when I tell you, it was like sparks flew. First date, I told her I love her, and she's like,
Oh my God. Oh, I can hardly wait. I'm going to interview you guys. You tell Judy, and we're going to make that, because it's still in the healing time right now. We still have a lot of healing, and people are really needing this, because there was such a high divorce rate because
oh,
all of a sudden had to be with somebody because of the lockdown. And actually New York, the lawyers in New York were getting calls in the middle of the night saying, you get me out of this marriage or this relationship, or I'm going to kill them. Just
yeah.
a matter of fact.
Well, domestic abuse is up too because of the pandemic. People are forced to, either you're going to make it work or you're not. So,
Right.
you know.
Right. So then it's all about, for you, it's all about healing. So now if I was to come into you, okay, if I'm coming into you, can you do it online? Do you have to do it in person? How does that work?
I haven't done an online healing session yet. I'm
Okay.
going to be honest with you.
Okay.
So it has all been in person.
Okay.
So I'm working on putting together what that would look like in a Zoom meeting like we are doing right now.
Yeah, you'll play with that, because you have that energy. But so for right now, say I'm going to come to your place, and what would happen? What is the first thing you do? Like,
Okay. I will tell someone to drink plenty of water before they come, to be hydrated, because a large percentage of us physically is water. So it's important to be hydrated. We sit in chairs. I just talk to them. I just want to establish a relationship. You know, especially if someone's coming in for the first time, we sit and talk about just life in general, and of course I'm reading and I'm getting vibration.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, I'm talking to you like you don't know, but
Yeah.
You know, and I start the session with maybe a 5-minute meditation, and just getting the person to breathe slower, to slow down, to feel what's going on, to get rid of the monkey mind thoughts that 100 million things that people are thinking about nowadays. Then we go to the table, and I do Reiki, but in the sense that as I work on different areas of their body, I'm getting feelings, sensations, I'm getting messages from spirit, which I don't talk about that while I'm doing it. I wait till the session's over. So I start from the head, work one side of the body, go down to the feet, come up again, and finish on the chakras. And then again, there's this very, very soft music playing. I also will put a crystal grid under the table that I'm working on. So there's energetically, it's coming up from below. After we're done, we go back into the 2 chairs and we talk about the messages that came through. So that's where it starts out with meditation, then it goes into Reiki, but then it goes into intuitive counseling.
And then
So
you do the sound healing. Do you use the music, the bowls, or?
I start the Reiki session with the bowls.
Oh,
So
okay, perfect.
I go around with the bowls just to get the energy flowing in the room. I don't use the bowls totally. I don't use several bowls. I just use just 1 or 2.
Well, I got to tell you something right now. You can actually do part of your work right now, because as you were talking to me, sitting here, okay, and you're saying, I bring them in and I'm going to do the relationship. And I could feel and you know how you went down and I used to pull him down, getting him out of the monkey mind?
Yes.
That actually happened to me.
Okay.
While you were saying that.
Okay.
Which is very interesting, because that doesn't happen all the time with somebody that's just doing a kind of a Zoom kind of thing. That's in your voice.
Okay. Frequency.
The harmony, the frequency.
Frequency. It is. Everything is frequency, Sandra. I mean, you know, thoughts are frequent, and emotions are frequency. Everything is.
And we're energy beings, and that's just it. And we can't hide. That's what I say to people. You can't hide. So people will say, like, I have to, you know, I can't be this and I can't be that. And I can remember I worked with Aboriginal women for years, and I would say, why? We're like nature. For me, if I'm going to cry, I cry. If I'm going to be upset, you're going to know I'm upset. I don't blame you. I'm just upset.
Right.
And the sun shines, I'm going to be that way. But you know what it equated to, Nick, is nature. I mean, we've got the seasons, but sometimes we have a tsunami. Sometimes the sun, sometimes the wind is out. And my personal philosophy is the more we suppress the emotions, it works going, now we get into the shadow. So we're suppressing it and we're not releasing it. Okay. And that's when I think a lot of time I found with students, especially the last few years, because they were bringing them in and they didn't have the reading skills. So when they went to read something, they couldn't understand it. Okay. Yeah. That was hard. And then there was just a lot going on. And they would get angry. Okay. And so it was holding that anger. And again, when they can't do that. And so just for people to be able to express who they really are is something you do. You want them to release and unblock. And that's part of the healing right now that we're looking at. This whole Pluto thing until October. I just got goosebumps. It's working with the shadow. Okay. So anything that's repressed and even just, because you're so harmonious yourself and you read people.
Yes. Interesting. A lot of times in the Reiki practice, it's like I'm doing a body scan. It's like I'm doing like a medical body scan. So I'll be at someone's hip going, you know, what's been happening with your hip? She's, I've had this pain for the last 2 minutes. I just know. It's just there. It just comes in. I did a session a week and a half ago where Spirit showed me their ear. I said, well, what's going on with your ear? She goes, oh my God, it's been bleeding for the last 2 days. I'm like, okay, great that I felt that. And what are you going to do about it? She said, and then she called, literally when she finished the session, she called the doctor to make an appointment. So, I mean, so stuff like that, it happens all the time with me. For whatever reason,
you're an intuitive reader.
I get, especially with medical, I'm not sure why.
Okay. So what was the guy that used to go, the Sleeping Prophet? What was his name?
Oh.
You know the one I mean. He was called this.
Yeah, I just can't think of his name.
Yeah,
Sorry.
He would go into it. And my brother actually.
Oh, Edgar Casey. Edgar
Casey. But my brother thought I was kind of a wingnut. He's over on the other side now, okay? and he got ill before I was 55, okay? And he called me on December 16th and said, I have 2 to 6 weeks to live. And I go, I'll come over. So I come over and I go, well, because I was working with Dr. Ong, because I had had a near-death experience, and then I was off for a year where they told me I'd be in a wheelchair. Well, I just needed a year to heal. I will be back, and I will be back more so.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
Right. But the interesting thing is, so he went in for his treatments and he had a, and this is a really important story for people to understand, that when you are given a prognosis, and do you buy into it? Are you fearful? What are you? That's big time. Okay. As you said, this woman with the hip, and that you intuitively understand what's happening with the body. So anyway, he went to a Dr. Henderby, who was the counselor at the Cross Cancer. And his first thing, and she goes, he said, I'm not religious. Because now he had fear that if he's not religious, he's going to go to hell. Okay. Somewhere that was planted in him. First thing.
Sure,
the second thing was, she goes, no, you're not religious to him, but you're spiritual. And he goes, no, that's my sister. And she's kind of wingy. Okay. Which is really funny. And she goes, Dwayne, I'm the counselor here. And she said, most of the oncologists thought I was flaky. And now they all work with me. And she went to New York. Barbara Brennan's in New York. And Carolyn Mize, I think, is in New York. Okay. And Carolyn Mize is the medic intuitive. And when she went to meet with her, Carolyn Mize said, I have to take this call. She picks up the phone. And she is, and this is something you probably will be doing, she is now talking to somebody over in Arabia, and she sees their body and does the diagnosis.
I had a reading with a woman from Arizona that did that for me.
Yeah.
Back when I had a really bad, I needed back surgery back then, but before I had the surgery, someone told me about her, and she just literally went through my entire body.
But I honestly, I'm being told now that that's something you will be doing.
Okay.
Okay, especially after you say with the ear and that type of thing. And it triggered me to be able to share this story, because many people are in so much fear. You know, to me, if you align with the divine or conscious, whatever you say, source, God,
Right.
whatever it is for you, if you align and you're totally aligned, like in the 8, totally aligned, okay, then you get the messages. You don't need to listen. You'll search for, okay, different things, okay, but then it all comes into effect. That's why you can fast track everything, because it's there and you have a deep understanding of it. Okay. Okay. So then, so that's their treatment. And do you say to them they should have 2 or 3 treatments, or do they know when to come, or what?
I leave it up to the client. I just tell them energetically they'll know when it's time to come back.
Energetic. See, and I also see, I've got to add that too, because it's energetic healing.
Yes.
Meditation, sound therapy, intuitive counseling, Reiki, and energy healing, and you blend it all. It's like a package. It's all a blend, and each works very synchronistically with each.
Absolutely.
For whatever the soul needs, because I think you're doing it at a soul level, and once at a soul level, then it moves out to, or you do it at a physical level and it moves this way. It's incorporating the mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
Oh my God. So this is perfect timing for you and for everybody. And so I'm so thankful that we were able to do it at this particular time. And you know what I like about you? We don't have to go in and say, the shadow is this, we're going to work on the shadow, and it's heavy, and it's that type of thing, okay? And there's trauma. We all know that.
Listen, we all have our challenges, you know, whether they're, you know, I mean, it's just happens. And, you know, it's not the fact that you have challenges, the fact of how you deal with them. And they come in for a reason. They come in for growth. That's, you know, if you understand that, then you welcome it. Okay, well, thank you, Spirit, for that reminder that I need to work on this part of my personality, or this part of my life.
Yeah.
Just welcome it. Why
Right,
fight
because
it?
you're actually working with a person, and that's the biggest thing. I was in the hair industry for over 50 years. Like, I'm a master judge, taught it, whatever. And Dr. Lula Zonze was a psychologist, okay?
Mhm.
And he had a client come in, this would be in the 60s. And it was a young girl, and she was afraid to date and this type of thing. But in those days, it was what, the discos. So she'd go to the disco on a Friday night, and he'd say, well, you know, if you meet a man, just go ask him to dance. And she goes, well, I don't know if I could do that. So anyway, she said, I'll try. So he's pumped, eh? He's going to come, he's waiting for her to come back for her next appointment. So she comes back and he goes, how did she go? And she goes, I didn't ask. I asked my hairdresser. He said, you asked your hairdresser and listened to her, and yet you pay me all this money? So you know what he did? He actually spent, and he ended up working for a company called Matrix. He was one of the best guest speakers we had in the world. I personally knew him, and I brought him into one of the high schools in Alberta and invited all of the other high schools to bring their students in to see him. He made you laugh, he made you cry, but he said, we touch the soul. And because I've spoke at grads for private hairdressing schools, and I said, you know what? It's like you're pruning the hair, but you're nourishing the soul. And basically that's what it's about.
And I felt the same way about my teaching career.
Yeah.
It was all about relationships.
Yeah, it is. And relationships is everything in the world. Okay, so is there anything you'd like to finish off with? I'm going to tell everybody, I'm so excited. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the hashtags so that you can get a hold of Nick. Okay, you can Zoom him, he'll have his email. And also I want you to remember that if you put a comment in this, for this video, I do a draw once a month, and I draw somebody's name. They have just a kind of a little sampler reading, okay, which is fun, okay? And I would love it if you would comment, if you would share with everybody, so this fabulous healing soul, everybody gets to know, okay? And subscribe. And now you can just finish it off.
Yes. Sandra, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I really, really am so grateful for you asking me to do this. I really, really am.
Oh, that was excellent. And get ready, because talk to Judy about
Yes.
relationships. And then the other one was, what was it on?
Sound healing, or you talked about music therapy and.
Right. Oh, there was about couples and about retirement.
Yes, about retirement, yes.
I don't call it retirement. I call it the transition. Transition. So
Right.
for the two of you can do both of them. I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for, I'm sure that you really enjoyed this. This is just such a beautiful, beautiful time. Now I have to make sure that I end this properly.